Hello, my dearest friends. I am so grateful to be here with you all. We are on lesson 103, part 1 of the workbook for students in A Course in Miracles. God, being love, is also happiness. Happiness is an attribute of love. It cannot be apart from it, nor can it be experienced where love is not. Love has no limits, being everywhere, and therefore joy is everywhere as well. Yet can the mind deny that this is so, believing there are gaps in love where sin can enter, bringing pain instead of joy. Based on the text discussions, the gaps in love would include the apparent gap between you and your brother, and would even include the world itself. What is the world except a little gap perceived to tear eternity apart and break it into days and months and years? And those are both quotes from the text. Chapter 28. This strange belief would limit happiness by redefining love as limited and introducing opposition in what has no limit and no opposite. Fear is associated now with love. The idea here seems to be that if there are gaps in love, such as a gap between our brother and ourselves, then that must ultimately trace back to gaps in God's love, which would cause us to associate fear with Him. This situation is described in detail in the text. The compromise, the least and the littlest gap would represent in His eternal love is quite impossible, for it would mean His love could harbor just a hint of hate. His gentleness turned sometimes to attack, and His eternal patience sometimes fail. All this do you believe when you perceive a gap between your brother and yourself. How could you trust Him then? For He must be deceptive in His love. Be wary then, let Him not come too close, and leave a gap between you and His love, through which you can escape, if there be a need for you to flee. That's the text, chapter 29. And of course you can pause this and look that up if you desire. I'm going to start that sentence over. Fear is associated now with love, and its results become the heritage of minds which think what they have made is real. These images with no reality and truth bear witness to the fear of God. Forgetting being love, He must be joy. This basic error we will try again to shift to truth today, teaching ourselves God, being love, is also happiness. To fear Him is to be afraid of joy. Begin your longer exercises for today with this association, which corrects the false belief that God is fear. It also emphasizes happiness belongs to you because of what He is. Allow this one correction to be placed within your mind each waking hour today. Then welcome all the happiness it brings as truth replaces fear and joy becomes what you expect to take the place of pain. God being love, it will be given you. Bolster this expectation frequently throughout the day and quiet all your fears with this assurance, kindly and wholly true. God, being love, is also happiness, and it is happiness I seek today. I cannot fail because I seek the truth. That is lesson 103. God, being love, is also happiness. And now I'm going to turn to the commentary in a workbook companion, Commentaries for Workbook Students from A Course in Miracles by Alan Watson and Robert Perry. There's 2 volumes. This is volume 1, second editions. This is lessons 1 through 180. Okay, and I had the page I had it open and then, okay, there we go. Yay. Lesson 103. God being love is also happiness. Now, Robert Perry does the practice instructions and Alan Watson wrote the commentary. All right, so practice instructions. The purpose of this lesson is to try again to correct our false belief that God is fearful. To realize instead that since God is love, he must be a giver of pure joy. Since God is love, he must be a giver of pure joy. And if I think anything else, I'm only mistaken. The practice period's every hour on the hour for 5 minutes, and I'll do a meditation for this lesson as well. And if you cannot do it, you can listen to the 5-minute meditation for 1 minute. Just 1 minute. Spend 1 minute every hour on the hour with God. And sometimes, I can't do it exactly on the hour, so I try to do it when I can. Say, God being love is also happiness. To fear him is to be afraid of joy. Then, just as in previous days, enter into a meditation aimed at finding the happiness God placed in you. Seek this holy place in you filled with anticipation, expecting God's joy to take the place of your pain. Realize you cannot fail because you seek what is already yours. Also, seek this place filled with a sense of welcoming the happiness that will surely come to you. And remember to draw your mind back when it drifts off to thinking about all the false promises held out to you by the world's definition of happiness. And try to remember this frequently throughout the day. Reinforce your expectation that you will find God's joy by saying, God, being love, is also happiness, and it is happiness I seek today. I cannot fail because I seek the truth. By bolstering your expectancy, this will enhance the depth of your hourly practice periods. So bolster your expectancy. Response to temptation. Whenever you feel any form of fear, quiet all your fears with these words. God, being love, is also happiness, and it is happiness I seek today. I cannot fail because I seek the truth. Lord, here I am, and thank you, Lord. Commentary. God, being love, is also happiness. There's one I never heard in church. God is happiness. Well, the Westminster Catechism of the Presbyterian Church did say that man's chief end is to love God and to enjoy him forever. But you didn't hear enjoying God talked about very often. Having been raised Catholic myself, I can certainly relate. Yet the way the lesson logically presents it, the idea is obvious and inescapable. Without love, no one can be happy. If love were absent, happiness would be absent also. That seems so simple to understand. Happiness must be an attribute of love. They go or come together. God is love. Love has no limits, being everywhere. Because that is true, happiness or joy must also be everywhere, just as God is. So God is happiness as well as love. The denial of happiness, then, is the denial of God. As a matter of fact, the text says something very much like that in chapter 10, when it says that depression is blasphemy. Careful, though, the point of saying this is not to make us guilty about being sad or depressed. The Course's point is to undo guilt, not to create it. It is pointing out the cause of our sadness and depression to us. It is saying you're hurting because you are turning your back on God, on love, on happiness itself. It isn't something outside of you, out of your control, that is doing this to you. You have the power to change this, to choose again and lift the depression. We are sad and depressed because we think what we have made is real. We think that there are gaps in love. That is not everywhere and always. that it is not everywhere and always. We are sad because we believe we are, to some degree at least, outside of God's love, beyond its limits. And we are not. We cannot be outside of His love. If we knew that in the core of our being, we would never be unhappy. Because I believe love has limits, I have come to be afraid of it, afraid it will be withdrawn, afraid of its conditions, afraid of what seems to be love. Afraid that what seems to be love is only a tease, a tantalizing promise that threatens to disappear if I misbehave. That fear, that constant anxiety over love's potential for disappearance, is the source of my lack of joy. How can I be joyful even when things are good, if love may be withdrawn at any moment? This is the error of our minds we are practicing to uncover, bring to the light, and let go of. And boy, this has been a process for me. I love all the lessons. They're all my favorites. But I grew up, having looked back and through the period of the past probably 15 years, could see that my number one fear was being unlovable and not loved. So this really speaks to me, that love was limited. And right now, this moment, I am encircled by His embrace. Yes. Right now, without a single thing changing, the love of God radiates to me without limit, without reservation or question. To know this is happiness, and it is this I seek today. I love you. God being love is also happiness. Let's have fun today. Let's be happy. Let's remember the truth of who we are. There is no way any of us are unlovable. How can how can love be unlovable? It just can't be. I love you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for joining with me. And please listen to my meditation whenever you get the opportunity. It's only 5 minutes. Lesson 103, God being love is also happiness.